The Great Hall of the Galactic Council had never seen such chaos. Ambassador Zethkar stood at the center podium, his blue skin pale with fear. Around him, representatives from 100 different worlds whispered in panic, their voices mixed together like a storm of worried sounds. "The Harvester ships have taken another system," Zethkar announced. His voice shook as he spoke. "The Kilos Prime system is gone. 7 billion souls, all converted to raw materials." A heavy silence fell over the chamber. The Harvesters had been moving through space for 3 years now. They were machines, cold and hungry. They ate everything in their path. Planets, ships, people. Nothing was safe from their endless hunger. Elder Vorthak from the Zephyrian Empire raised one of his forearms. "Our battle fleets engaged the enemy at Sector 7. We lost 60% of our ships. The Harvesters learned from every weapon we used. By the end of the battle, our lasers could not even scratch their hulls." The Krathan war chief, Gorthak the Red, slammed his massive fist on his chair. "My warriors are the finest fighters in the galaxy. We have conquered 1,000 worlds. But these machines, they adapt too fast. They learn our ways and become stronger. Even we cannot touch them," whispered the ethereal mind called luminescence, the energy being flickered with worry. "They have technology that defies our understanding. When we attacked with pure thought, they built shields against our minds." Fear spread through the chamber like a disease. For the first time in galactic history, every major civilization faced the same threat. The Harvesters did not want to rule or negotiate. They only wanted to consume and grow. "What other options do we have?" asked Representative Cleth from the Trade Federation. "Our combined fleets cannot stop them. Our best weapons are useless. Our smartest minds cannot understand their technology." Zethkar looked at the datapad in his hands. His claws tapped nervously on its surface. "There is one possibility, but you will not like it." All eyes turned to him. In the back of the chamber, someone made a sound of disgust. Others shifted uncomfortably in their seats. "Speak," commanded Elder Vorthak. "The restricted sector files mention a world called Earth. It is classified as a Class 12 death world. The planet is unsuitable for civilized life." Many representatives made sounds of shock. Class 12 worlds were considered the most dangerous places in the galaxy. Only the most primitive and savage species could survive on such planets. "You suggest we ask barbarians for help?" Gorthak roared. "My honor would be stained forever." "Your honor will not matter if you are dead," Zethkar replied quietly. "These humans have survived on a world that should have killed them millions of times over. They face extinction every day and still live." He activated his datapad. A hologram appeared showing a blue and green world. It looked beautiful from space, but the data told a different story. Earth experiences ice ages that freeze entire continents. Massive rocks from space hit the planet regularly. The ground shakes and splits open. Mountains explode with fire. The weather can kill in minutes. Yet these humans not only survive, they multiply. "What could such primitives offer us?" asked Luminescence. "Our technology is thousands of years ahead of theirs." "Perhaps that is the problem," Zethkar said. "We think like civilized beings. We follow rules of war. We try to minimize damage and preserve resources. But what if the enemy cannot be fought with civilization?" He brought up more data about Earth. Images of human conflicts filled the air. The representatives watched in horror as they saw humans fighting with crude weapons, destroying their own cities, sacrificing everything to win. They have been at war with their own world for millions of years. They fight each other, their environment, and extinction itself. They know how to survive when everything else fails. "This is madness," whispered Elder Vorthak. "We cannot trust our fate to Deathworld savages." "Can we trust it to anyone else?" Zethkar asked. "Every other option has failed. Our fleets are broken. Our worlds are falling one by one. In 6 months, the Harvesters will reach the core systems. After that, organic life in this galaxy will end." The chamber fell silent. Everyone knew he was right. The mathematics were simple and terrible. Without help, they would all be dead within a year. Representative Cleth stood up slowly. "What exactly are you proposing?" "We send a distress signal to Earth. We ask for their help. If they refuse, we lose nothing. If they agree," Zethkar paused, "if they agree, we might learn how to fight like they do." "And if these humans demand something in return?" asked Gorthak. "Then we give it to them. What use are treaties and territories if we are all dead?" One by one, the representatives began to nod. It was not a good choice. It was simply the only choice they had left. Elder Vorthak raised his arm. All in favor of sending a distress signal to the human homeworld. Hands, claws, tentacles, and energy fields rose throughout the chamber. The vote was unanimous. Then it is decided, Vorthak said. May the cosmic forces help us all. 3 hours later, a message shot through space toward a small yellow star. It carried the desperate plea of a dying galaxy to a world that most civilized beings considered a nightmare. On Earth, deep space monitoring stations picked up the signal. The message was simple but clear. Help us. The galaxy is dying. You are our last hope. Admiral Sarah Chen read the translated message in her office aboard the space station Olympus. She had spent 20 years fighting in humanity's wars among the stars. She knew what desperation looked like. So the aliens finally need us, she said to her aide, Lieutenant Commander Torres. Should we respond, Admiral? Chen looked out the window at Earth below. She could see storm clouds over the Pacific where another hurricane was forming. Even from space, her homeworld looked dangerous. She smiled. Oh, we'll respond. Signal the fleet. All dreadnoughts are to prepare for immediate deployment. All of them, ma'am. Every single one. If someone's threatening our galaxy, they're about to learn why humans don't go extinct. In the depths of space, the Harvester Collective continued its advance. The machines did not know that their next opponents had learned warfare on a world that tried to kill them every single day. They did not know that humans had been fighting extinction since before they learned to make fire. They would learn soon enough. The distress call had been answered. The Death World was coming to war. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the UES Indomitable, watching the stars streak by as her ship jumped through space. Around her, the bridge crew worked with quiet efficiency. They had been traveling for 2 weeks since receiving the alien distress call. Jump complete, Admiral, announced Navigator Walsh. We are now in the Centauri neutral zone as requested by the aliens. Chen nodded. Through the main view screen, she could see other human ships appearing one by one. The sight would have terrified any civilized species in the galaxy. These were not the sleek, elegant vessels that other races preferred. These were weapons of war, built by a species that understood violence. The UES Indomitable was the largest. It stretched over 2 kilometers long and was covered in thick armor plating. Scars from previous battles marked its hull like badges of honor. Weapon ports dotted every surface. The ship looked like a flying fortress, and that was exactly what it was. Signal from the UES Defiant. Ma'am, reported Communications Officer Park. Captain Rodriguez reports his battle group is in position. Good. What about the UES Vengeance? Captain Morrison's group just arrived. All 15 dreadnoughts are now in formation. Chen smiled. 15 of humanity's most powerful warships. Each one carrying enough firepower to crack a moon. The aliens had asked for help, but they probably expected 1 or 2 ships at most. They were about to get a very different response. Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the alien fleet, Park said. They're requesting permission to approach. Grant it. And put their leader on the main screen. The view screen flickered, and suddenly Chen was looking at Ambassador Zethkar. The alien's blue skin had gone even paler when he saw the human ships. Behind him, other alien officials whispered in obvious shock. Greetings, humans, Zethkar said, trying to keep his voice steady. I am Ambassador Zethkar of the Volani Federation. We did not expect such a response. Admiral Sarah Chen, Terran Defense Force, Chen replied. You sent a distress call. We responded. Is there a problem? No problem at all. It is just, your ships are much larger than we anticipated. And there are so many of them. Chen looked at her tactical display. The alien fleet was a mix of ships from different species. They were beautiful in their own way. Smooth curves, bright colors, elegant designs. They looked like works of art floating in space. They also looked completely inadequate for fighting a war. You said the galaxy was in danger, Chen said. We take threats seriously. These are our frontline dreadnoughts. Each one has been tested in combat against human enemies. The aliens on the screen exchanged worried glances. One of them, a large creature covered in red scales, leaned forward. I am War Chief Gorthak of the Krathan Empire. Your vessels, they appear to be designed for extreme combat. Are all human ships so heavily armed? These are our warships, Chen answered simply. We have others for different jobs. But when someone threatens our galaxy, we send ships built to fight. Your galaxy? Asked a shimmering energy being that appeared on the screen. You consider this your territory? We live here, don't we? That makes it ours to protect. Chen's voice was matter-of-fact. Now about these harvesters. We'd like to see what we're dealing with. The aliens spent the next hour briefing the humans on their enemy. Chen listened carefully as they described the mechanical swarm, its ability to adapt to any weapon, and the complete failure of conventional tactics. Show us some battle footage, Chen requested. The aliens complied. The humans watched in silence as elegant alien ships fired their energy weapons at the dark, shifting forms of the harvester fleet. They saw how the enemy hulls changed to deflect each attack. They watched entire battle groups disappear under waves of mechanical enemies. Interesting, Chen said when the footage ended. Your weapons are very advanced, very efficient, very precise. They were useless against the enemy, Zethkar said sadly. The harvesters adapted to everything we threw at them. That's because you fought them like civilized beings, Chen replied. You used clean energy weapons with predictable patterns. You followed rules of engagement. You tried to minimize collateral damage. Of course, said Elder Vorthak, who had joined the conversation. That is how war is properly conducted. Chen almost laughed. Not where we come from. On Earth, war is about winning. Everything else is secondary. She turned to her weapons officer. Commander Hayes, show our new allies what a human weapons loadout looks like. The main screen split to show a cross-section of the Indomitable. The aliens stared in horror as they saw deck after deck packed with weapons, kinetic cannons that fired chunks of metal at incredible speeds, missile tubes loaded with nuclear warheads, plasma projectors that could melt through any known armor, chemical weapons banned by every civilized treaty. By the cosmic forces, whispered Zethkar. How many different weapon types do you carry? 47 primary systems, Hayes answered. Plus another 32 for special situations. And that's just on this ship. Why so many? Asked the energy being. Because we never know what we'll need to kill, Chen said. Our enemies adapt. We adapt faster. They develop defenses. We use different attacks. That's how you survive on a death world. You always have another option. The aliens were quiet for a long moment. Finally, War Chief Gorthak spoke. These harvesters have defeated every military force in the galaxy. What makes you think you can succeed where we have failed? Chen looked at the alien warrior with respect. At least this one asked the right questions. Because you've been fighting them like they're another civilized species. You use sophisticated tactics and advanced technology. You expect them to follow certain patterns, she paused. But we don't fight civilized wars. We fight like predators from a world that's been trying to kill us for millions of years. What does that mean? Zethkar asked. It means we don't just want to defeat the harvesters. We want to make sure they can never threaten anyone again. Ever. Chen's voice was cold and hard. Where we come from, when something tries to make you extinct, you make it extinct first. The aliens looked at each other nervously. They had asked for help from primitive barbarians. Now they were beginning to understand what that really meant. Admiral, Park announced, we're receiving reports of harvester activity in the Kilo system. They're attacking the evacuation convoys. Chen nodded. Signal the fleet. All ships to battle stations. We're going to show these machines what happens when they threaten our galaxy. Are you certain you want to engage immediately? Zethkar asked. Perhaps we should develop a strategy first. We have a strategy, Chen replied. Find the enemy. Kill the enemy. Don't stop until they're all dead. She turned to her helmsman. Set course for Kilo system. Maximum speed. As the human fleet began to move, the aliens could only watch and wonder what they had unleashed. The Deathworlder Dreadnoughts were going to war, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Kilo system was dying. Admiral Chen watched the tactical display as her fleet approached the battle zone. Harvester ships swarmed around the evacuation convoys like metal locusts, their dark hulls shifting and changing as they fed on destroyed vessels. Status report. Chen ordered. Alien evacuation fleet is under heavy attack, reported Commander Hayes. 17 ships destroyed in the last 10 minutes. The harvesters are adapting to their weapons in real time. Chen could see it happening on the display. The beautiful alien ships fired their energy beams at the mechanical enemies. At first, the weapons punched holes in the harvester hulls. But within minutes, the enemy armor changed, becoming reflective. The same weapons that had been effective suddenly became useless. The alien ships are falling back, announced Navigator Walsh. They're requesting immediate assistance. Signal the fleet, Chen said. Battle formation Delta. We're going in. Ma'am, said Hayes hesitantly. The aliens have been fighting these things for 3 years. Their technology is much more advanced than ours. If their weapons don't work, Chen smiled grimly. Commander, our weapons aren't more advanced. They're just different. The human fleet spread out as it entered the battle zone. The harvesters immediately noticed the new arrivals. A portion of their swarm broke off from attacking the alien convoy and moved toward the human ships. Harvester formation approaching, Walsh reported. Count is 47 vessels, various sizes. Perfect, Chen said. All ships hold fire until they're in close range. Let them get a good look at us. The alien fleet commanders watched in confusion as the humans simply flew straight toward the enemy. Their ships looked crude compared to the elegant alien vessels, but there was something terrifying about their steady advance. Ambassador Zethkar opened a channel to the human flagship. Admiral Chen, why aren't you firing? The enemy is within range of your weapons. We want them to see what they're dealing with first, Chen replied. It's more efficient this way. The harvesters closed to within 5,000 kilometers. Their hulls began to shift and change, preparing defenses based on the scans they were taking of the human ships. They detected energy weapon systems and began developing reflective armor. They found missile launchers and started growing point defense systems. All ships, Chen announced on the fleet channel, commence firing, full spread. What happened next shocked everyone watching. The UES Indomitable didn't fire energy beams or sophisticated missiles. Instead, massive kinetic cannons along its hull roared to life. Chunks of dense metal, each one weighing several tons, shot out at incredible speeds. They slammed into the nearest harvester ship and punched completely through its hull. The mechanical vessel tried to adapt. But how do you adapt to a piece of metal moving at significant fraction of light speed? The harvester's hull shifted and changed, but physics didn't care. The kinetic rounds went through its armor like it wasn't there. Target down, Hayes reported with satisfaction. Hull breach on multiple harvester vessels. But the harvesters learned fast. Within minutes, their hulls developed new configurations designed to deflect kinetic impacts. Angled armor plates appeared across their surfaces. They're adapting to kinetic weapons, Walsh warned. Good, Chen said. Hayes switched to explosive rounds. The human ships changed their ammunition. Now instead of solid metal slugs, they fired shells that exploded inside the enemy hulls. The harvesters tried to adapt, but each explosion was different. Some were chemical, some were nuclear, some used exotic matter that the machines had never encountered. They're still adapting, Hayes reported, developing blast-resistant configurations, switched to plasma cannons. Hidden weapon bays opened along the human ships. Streams of superheated plasma lanced out, cutting through harvester hulls like knives through paper. The enemies tried to develop heat-resistant armor, but the humans immediately switched tactics again. Cryo-weapons online, Hayes announced. The plasma suddenly stopped, replaced by beams that froze anything they touched to near absolute zero. Harvester hulls cracked and shattered as their molecular structure was destroyed by the sudden temperature change. The alien observers watched in stunned amazement. Every time the harvesters adapted to one weapon type, the humans simply switched to something completely different. It was like watching a master craftsman use different tools for different jobs. How many different weapons do they have? Whispered War Chief Gorthak. By my count, they've used 7 different primary systems so far, Elder Vorthak replied, and they show no signs of running out. But the harvesters weren't finished. They began linking together, sharing information at light speed. Within moments, they developed defenses against all the human weapons they had encountered. Admiral, Hayes said urgently. They're adapting to everything. Our weapons are becoming ineffective, Chen nodded calmly. Time for lesson 2. All ships prepare for ramming speed. Ma'am? Hayes asked in shock. You heard me. Target the largest harvester vessel. We're going to ram it. The UES Indomitable's engines roared to full power. The massive dreadnought accelerated directly toward a harvester command ship, 3 times its size. The alien observers watched in horror as the human vessel prepared to sacrifice itself. Admiral Chen, Zethkar called frantically. What are you doing? This is suicide. No, Chen replied. This is human tactics. At the last possible moment, the Indomitable fired every weapon it had directly forward. The concentrated firepower punched a hole in the harvester's hull. Then the human ship smashed through that hole at tremendous speed. The collision was devastating. Both vessels were destroyed in a massive explosion that lit up the space around them. But the harvester command ship was gone, and with it, the coordination for an entire section of the enemy fleet. "Admiral," Hayes shouted, but Chen was already speaking into her communicator. "Chen, to all ships. I'm transferring command to Captain Rodriguez on the Vengeance. Continue the mission." The escape pod launched just before the Indomitable exploded. The other human ships didn't hesitate. They immediately moved to exploit the gap their flagship had created. The UES Vengeance, now under Rodriguez's command, led a charge through the confusion. Human ships fired everything they had while ramming any enemy vessel that got too close. They used their own ammunition stores as bombs, detonating nuclear warheads inside their own hulls to take out clusters of enemies. The Harvesters had never faced anything like this. They were machines, logical and efficient. They couldn't understand enemies who would sacrifice their own ships just to cause damage. They tried to adapt to the ramming tactics, but how do you adapt to someone using their own vessel as a weapon? Within an hour, the Harvester formation was broken. The surviving mechanical ships retreated, something they had never done before in their recorded history. The alien evacuation convoy was safe. The human fleet had lost 4 ships, but they had accomplished something no other force in the galaxy had managed. They had made the Harvesters retreat. "Impossible," whispered Elder Vorthak. "They actually won." Admiral Chen's escape pod was recovered by the UES Defiant. As she was brought aboard, she opened a channel to the alien fleet. "This is Admiral Chen. The immediate threat has been neutralized. How many civilians did we save?" 7. 7 million souls, Zethkar replied, his voice full of awe. "You saved 7 million people." "Good," Chen said simply. "Now where are the rest of these machines?" "We have work to do." The aliens looked at each other with a mixture of gratitude and terror. The humans had saved them, but they had done it with a brutality that defied understanding. These Deathworld warriors didn't just fight to win. They fought like the survival of all organic life depended on their victory, and perhaps it did. 3 months into the war, the galaxy was learning what it meant to fight alongside humans. Admiral Chen stood in the strategy room aboard the new flagship UES Retribution, studying holographic displays of recent battles. Around her, alien commanders watched with a mixture of fascination and horror. "The next target is the Harvester staging area in the Helix Nebula," Chen announced. "Intelligence indicates they're building a massive processing facility there." War Chief Gorthak leaned forward, his red scales glinting in the light. "My fleet can provide support, but the nebula's energy fields will disrupt our targeting systems." "Perfect," Chen replied. "That means their sensors will be disrupted too." Elder Vorthak flickered with confusion. "Surely fighting blind puts us at a disadvantage." "Not if you know how to use it," Captain Rodriguez said from his seat. He had taken over as Chen's second-in-command after his performance at Kilos. "On Earth, we call it fighting dirty. You use whatever advantages you can find." Ambassador Zethkar studied the tactical display. "The nebula contains highly charged particles. Our shields won't function properly. Our energy weapons will be weakened." "Then we don't use energy weapons," Chen said simply. "Rodriguez, prep your Marines for boarding actions." "Yes, ma'am." "Full Deathworld loadout?" "Everything. Chemical weapons, explosives, melee equipment. If it can kill machines in close quarters, bring it." The alien commanders exchanged worried glances. Over the past months, they had learned to fear human boarding parties almost as much as the Harvesters did. 2 days later, the combined fleet entered the Helix Nebula. The swirling clouds of gas and dust made everything difficult. Ships had to stay close together to maintain communications. Sensors worked poorly. Energy weapons lost much of their power. For the alien fleets, it was a nightmare. For the humans, it was just another day. "Contact," announced the sensor operator aboard the Retribution. "Multiple Harvester vessels bearing 27 Mark IV. "How many?" Chen asked. "Difficult to tell in this interference. At least 30, possibly more." "Signal the fleet. Attack pattern Omega. All ships prepare for close combat." The human dreadnoughts moved through the nebula like hunting sharks. Their heavy armor protected them from the charged particles that wreaked havoc on more sophisticated alien ships. Their kinetic weapons worked just as well in the gas clouds as they did in clear space. The Harvesters tried to adapt to the nebula conditions, but the humans had done something unexpected. Instead of avoiding the worst areas of interference, they deliberately flew into them. "Admiral," Rodriguez called from the Vengeance. "I have a shot at their command vessel. Requesting permission to board." "Granted. Take them apart." The UES Vengeance crashed through the nebula like a battering ram. Its thick armor scraped against harvester hulls as Rodriguez maneuvered his ship alongside the enemy command vessel. Docking clamps shot out, locking the two ships together. Breach successful, Rodriguez reported. Deploying Marines. What followed became legendary among the alien forces. Rodriguez led his Marines into the harvester ship wearing full combat armor and carrying weapons that would have horrified any civilized species. They used chemical explosives to blast through bulkheads. They carried flamethrowers that could melt through the strongest metals. When their high-tech weapons failed, they pulled out knives and hammers. The harvesters tried to adapt to human technology. But how do you adapt to a piece of sharpened steel swung by someone who grew up on a gravity well, twice the galactic standard? The machines are falling back. Rodriguez's voice crackled through the interference. They can't handle close combat. Their adaptation systems work too slowly at this range. Understood. All ships follow the Vengeance's lead. Board everything you can reach. The battle turned into a series of brutal close-quarters fights. Human Marines swarmed through harvester vessels, using tactics learned from centuries of fighting in Earth's most hostile environments. They moved through the ships like they were raiding caves, checking every corner, leaving no enemy behind them. The aliens watched in amazement as human soldiers adapted to each new situation. When harvester defenses blocked their explosives, they used acid weapons. When the machines developed resistance to those, the humans switched to sonic weapons that shattered metal at the molecular level. How do they know how to do this? Whispered Luminescence, the ethereal mind. We have been fighting these machines for years and learned nothing. They adapt to every situation in minutes. Elder Vorthak observed the battle through his ship's sensors. Look at how they move. Each group uses different tactics. When one approach fails, they immediately try another. War Chief Gorthak watched a human Marine use a mining charge to blow a hole in a harvester bulkhead, then throw a chemical grenade through the opening. They fight like the machines are just another environmental hazard to overcome. That's exactly what they're doing, Ambassador Zethkar realized. On their world, everything tries to kill them. Storms, earthquakes, volcanoes, ice ages. They've learned to treat every threat the same way, adapt or die. As the battle continued, something unprecedented happened. The alien forces began copying human tactics. Zephyrian ships started ramming harvester vessels instead of relying on energy weapons. Krathan warriors abandoned their honor codes and began targeting enemy weak points. Even the ethereal minds learned to strike without warning. The Death World doctrine is spreading, Chen observed with satisfaction. They're learning. The humans had introduced concepts that no civilized species had ever considered. Totalvar, victory at any cost, the complete destruction of the enemy. Admiral, called Commander Hayes, the harvester facility is directly ahead. It's enormous. Chen looked at the tactical display. The processing station was the size of a small moon, bristling with defenses and surrounded by hundreds of mechanical ships. Signal all vessels, she ordered. We're going in hard and fast. No mercy, no quarter. These machines want to process organic life. Let's show them what organic life can do when it fights back. The combined fleet charged through the nebula toward the harvester station. Human ships led the way, their crews singing ancient war songs as they flew into certain death. Behind them came alien vessels, their crews finally understanding what it meant to fight for survival. The battle for the station lasted 6 hours. When it was over, the massive facility was a drifting wreck. The harvester's ability to process captured systems had been crippled, but more importantly, the galaxy had learned something new. The precise civilized warfare that had dominated galactic conflicts for millennia was useless against an enemy that didn't follow the rules. To fight the harvesters, they had to think like humans. They had to fight like predators from a death world. Casualty report, Chen requested as the fleet regrouped. Heavy losses, Hayes replied, but acceptable for the target we eliminated. Acceptable, Elder Vorthak repeated quietly. A human word. They consider massive casualties acceptable if the mission succeeds. Because they understand something we forgot, Zethkar said. Sometimes the choice isn't between victory and defeat. Sometimes it's between extinction and survival. As news of the victory spread through the galaxy, other species began requesting human advisors. They wanted to learn Deathworld tactics. They wanted to understand how to fight without rules. The humans were happy to teach them. After all, the galaxy was their home too. And if there was one thing humans knew how to do, it was defend their home, no matter what the cost. The final battle began at the edge of the Harvester core systems. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution, looking at the largest enemy fleet anyone had ever seen. Millions of mechanical ships filled the space around 3 star systems, all converging on the planets where the Harvester intelligence had been born. Fleet status report, Chen ordered. Commander Hayes consulted his displays. 17 human dreadnoughts operational, 43 alien vessels from 12 different species, were outnumbered approximately 4,000 to 1. Good odds, Chen said calmly. At least it will be interesting. Behind her, War Chief Gorthak laughed grimly. 6 months of fighting alongside humans had changed the proud Krathan warrior. His red scales were scarred from battle, and his honor codes had been replaced by human pragmatism. The Zephyrian fleet report's ready, Elder Vorthak announced. The energy being had learned to appreciate human directness. They have armed their ships with kinetic weapons as you suggested. Excellent. What about the Villani? Ambassador Zethkar's voice came over the communication system. My people's ships are equipped with chemical weapons and boarding pods. We have learned much from your Marines, Admiral. Chen nodded with satisfaction. The galaxy had changed in the months since the humans arrived. The elegant civilized ships of the major species now bristled with crude but effective weapons. Their crews had abandoned the sophisticated tactics of the past in favor of brutal efficiency. Signal from the Harvester fleet, reported the communications officer. They're demanding our surrender. Put them on screen. The main display showed a mechanical face, cold and emotionless. Organic vessels, you have interfered with our expansion for the last time. Surrender now and your processing will be swift, Chen smiled. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Defense Force. I have a counteroffer. Shut down your operations and leave this galaxy. You have 1 minute to comply. The mechanical voice showed no emotion. You are outnumbered thousands to 1. Your defeat is mathematically certain. Math is useful, Chen replied, but it doesn't account for human stubbornness, or the fact that we've been planning this for months. The Harvester spokesperson tilted its head. What do you mean? Check your sensors. Look at the stars around your core worlds. There was a pause as the Harvesters scanned their surroundings. When they spoke again, there was something like concern in their voice. Impossible. You could not have... Oh, but we could, Chen said cheerfully. While you were adapting to our weapons, we were placing stellar engineering charges around your suns. Did you really think we would fight this battle conventionally? The truth was terrifying in its simplicity. For months, human stealth ships had been infiltrating the Harvester core systems. Using technology borrowed from their mining operations on Earth, they had placed massive charges around the enemy's home stars. You would destroy entire star systems? The Harvester asked. If that's what it takes, Chen replied. See, you made one mistake. You threatened our galaxy. That makes this personal. Admiral, Hayes whispered urgently. Detonating those charges will make this entire region uninhabitable for millions of years. Better uninhabitable than under Harvester control, Chen said loudly enough for the aliens to hear. Sometimes you have to break something to save it. The Harvester fleet began moving, but they were caught between impossible choices. If they attacked the organic fleet, the humans would trigger the stellar charges. If they tried to evacuate, they would lose their core infrastructure. If they did nothing, the charges would detonate anyway. You are insane, the mechanical spokesperson said. No, Chen replied. We're human. There's a difference. War Chief Gorthak opened a channel to his fleet. Krathan warriors, today we fight alongside the humans one last time. Show these machines what honor truly means. Elder Vorthak's voice joined the communications. Zephyrian vessels advance. Let us end this threat forever. One by one, every species in the galaxy added their voices. They had learned from the humans that some fights were worth any cost. The battle was chaos from the first moment. The Harvesters threw everything they had at the organic fleet, trying to destroy the humans before they could detonate the charges, but the Allied ships had learned Deathworld tactics. They fought with a savagery that the machines couldn't predict or counter. Captain Rodriguez led a boarding action against a Harvester command ship, using nothing but chemical explosives and hand weapons. His Marines fought through the vessel like demons, destroying everything they could reach. The UES Vengeance rammed 3 enemy ships in sequence, its crew transferring to escape pods just before each impact. They were picked up by alien vessels and immediately began planning their next attack. Harvester adaptation rates are slowing, Hayes reported. They can't keep up with the rate of tactical changes. Because they're trying to adapt to a dozen different species all using human methods, Chen replied. They weren't designed for this level of chaos. The battle raged for hours. Ships exploded in brilliant flashes as crews sacrificed themselves to take out enemy formations. The space around the core worlds became a graveyard of twisted metal and drifting debris. But slowly, inevitably, the organic fleet was being overwhelmed. There were simply too many harvester ships. "Admiral," Hayes said quietly, "we're down to 8 human vessels. The alien fleet has lost 60% of its ships." Chen nodded. She had expected this. "Signal all remaining vessels. Execute final protocol, ma'am." "You heard me. All ships. Maximum speed toward the nearest star. We're going to finish this." The surviving ships of the organic fleet suddenly changed course. Instead of fighting the harvester swarm, they accelerated directly toward the enemy home stars. "They're running," the harvester spokesperson announced. "The organic fleet is retreating." "No," Chen said into her communicator. "We're delivering the final payload." The truth hit the harvesters too late. The surviving organic ships weren't running away. They were carrying the detonation codes for the stellar charges. If the machines wanted to stop the explosions, they would have to destroy every single enemy vessel. "All hands," Chen announced on the fleet channel. "It has been an honor serving with you. Remember, today we saved the galaxy." The final charge was magnificent in its terror. Human and alien ships flew through the harvester fleet like arrows, their crews singing war songs as they died. Each vessel that reached a star transmitted its detonation code before being destroyed. One by one, the stars began to explode. The chain reaction was visible across half the galaxy. 3 star systems died in minutes, taking the harvester core worlds with them. The mechanical intelligence that had threatened all organic life was finally, completely destroyed. Admiral Chen's escape pod was one of the few to survive. As she was rescued by a damaged Krathan ship, she watched the final explosions light up the darkness of space. "Status report," she requested weakly. "The harvesters are gone," War Chief Gorthak replied. "All of them. Their entire civilization has been eliminated. Casualties? Severe. We lost 90% of the fleet. But the galaxy is safe." In the days that followed, as the survivors limped back to their homeworlds, the magnitude of what had happened began to sink in. The harvester threat was over, but the cost had been terrible. Millions of beings had died to achieve victory. And yet, as the rescue fleets arrived and the casualty reports came in, one thing became clear. The galaxy had survived. Organic life would continue. The Galactic Council, what remained of it, offered humanity everything they could think of. Territory, technology, resources, permanent membership in their government. Admiral Chen's response became the stuff of legend. Standing before the assembled representatives of a dozen species, wearing a hospital gown and supporting herself on crutches, she delivered humanity's answer. "We didn't do this for rewards. We did it because it needed doing. The galaxy is our home too, and we protect what's ours." She paused, looking at each alien representative in turn. "But understand this. We've shown you how to fight when everything is at stake. How to win when losing means extinction. Some of you will remember these lessons. Some of you will try to forget them. Either way, if something like this threatens our galaxy again, we'll be ready. We'll always be ready." The human fleet departed for Earth soon after, leaving behind a galaxy forever changed. The elegant ships and civilized warfare of the past were gone, replaced by brutal efficiency and the willingness to do whatever was necessary to survive. Other species began studying human tactics, learning the lessons of Deathworld warfare. Some were horrified by what they learned. Others embraced it completely. In the depths of space, monitoring stations detected new ship designs appearing in alien fleets. Heavily armored vessels bristling with kinetic weapons. Ships designed to ram enemy formations. Crews trained in chemical warfare and close combat. The galaxy had learned to fight like humans. The question now was what they would do with that knowledge. But in the Sol system, on a blue and green world where humanity had first learned to survive, Admiral Chen looked up at the stars and smiled. The galaxy was safe. Her people had done their job. And if anyone was foolish enough to threaten their home again, they would learn why humans don't go extinct.